Take this job and shove it.
This is Jobcast Radio, and I am Mike Baumgartner, your Work-Life Survival Sage, the Chief Executive Officer of the Work-Life Survival Center, and your host. If you've got a problem at work, if you've got a boss who's a jerk, if somebody's giving you a hard time or the company's trying to get rid of you, you give me a call. My number 304-867-4142. Let's talk it through. Yes, there are policies out there, but there are also companies who really, honestly, just don't want you there, and they'll bend a lot of rules to do that. If you need help finding a job, give me a shout as well. I can help you with interviews, getting your resume together. What should you wear? What should you say? Those are the things that we talk about here at Jobcast Radio. Give me a call, 304-867-4142. Again, 304-867-4142. With whatever question you have, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I am here to get you into your job and help you literally survive it. That whole work-life survival balance thing that we all talk about. Is your job driving you crazy? Well, let's talk about it. Again, give me a call. My number 304-867-4142, or you can shoot me an email at mike@jobcastradio.com. Well, since we last talked, it's really been a very bizarre job market at this point. The United States added 244,000 jobs in the month of April, but the unemployment rate went up to 9%. Now, why is that? Well, a couple of different reasons. Number one, the data that assesses, the number of jobs that have been created, that is a whole different data set than the data set that is used to create the unemployment rate. And quite honestly, as I took a look at the data, I believe, as I have been saying show after show, that there are some jobs out there and people are getting employed. But I also think that more people who had given up are jumping back into the market. And I also think that there is a significant number of people who are honestly losing their jobs. There are government jobs that are going away. There are some local, private, and public sector jobs that are just disappearing. So the unemployment rate, and remember, 244,000 jobs may sound like a lot, but honestly, that does not keep pace with the number of people coming into the labor market. We need to be creating about 450, maybe 500,000 new jobs a year to make a dent on those that we lost during this past recession. Now, are we out of the recession? I'm not going to bet on that. Oil prices are going up and down. Silver prices are tanking. Commodities, copper is going down. So there is some conversation that we just may go into another double dip. But for those of you who have jobs, those of you who are just getting jobs, that's good news. And I am hearing from more and more people I know who have been out of work for a long time saying, yeah, I got a job. It's not exactly what they were looking for. It certainly doesn't pay as much as they used to make, but it is a better job than maybe the part-time job that they were having as well. So, and analysts' expectations were blown out of the water. However, not exactly, again, the best news that's out there. Now, for those of you who are starting a job, I want to talk to you in this first segment of our show a little bit about, look, when you get a job, you want to make a big impression. You want to knock it out of the park. You want them to go, wow, we hired somebody who's great. And most people tend to do that by jumping into a job, finding some sacred cow to kill, and then going about and just trying to rock the boat and change things. And that usually gets you, if not kicked out of the company, it'll get you marginalized, and it'll get you hated very, very quickly. And I want to tell you a little bit of a story that I, have heard many times in my career, and maybe you have heard it, maybe you haven't. And it concerns a guy who was actually out in Africa, who was going out. He was a missionary and was wandering into a tribe that he wanted to stay with. And the tribe's people were very warm. They were very welcoming, and they opened their arms and they let him join into their community. And he became just sort of an outsider in this village, and they tolerated him, and they would laugh with him, and sometimes they would laugh at him. But he also would be invited to the evening meal, and the evening meal usually began around 4 o'clock with one of the members of the tribe gathering up a small pile of sticks and twigs and a little bit of straw and some other larger logs, and he would put them into a pile. And he would pull out a block of wood, and he would pull out a little handmade bow with a string, and he would do what you've all seen before, that whole bow with the stick, grinding it into the wood process of creating enough friction to create enough heat that would create a spark enough to light fire to the little bit of hay and a little bit of twigs that would get the fire going. And this process took a while. I mean, the person who was doing this would always be drenched with sweat, and he would put that block down, put it in there, and he'd rub and 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 rub. And finally, after quite a while and a lot of effort and strain, a fire would start. And the fire would start, and they'd put the food on, and they would cook, and they would eat, and they would celebrate the evening and the day's harvest and stuff like that. The next day, another different member of the tribe would do the same thing. He would grab a block of wood, and he would grab some twigs and some hay, and he would get the bow and the block, and he would, again, wrap it around the stick and begin to spin that stick in a little hole faster and faster, and with enough effort and enough strain and, of course, a lot of sweat. He would then get that spark, and he would start a fire. And that would happen each and every night that this individual, that this visitor to the village, this missionary, would see. And he would watch them, and he would see how they would do it. And he would let them do what they needed to do. And one of these days, after a while, after he'd been with the group for a while, a couple of weeks, he got some sticks, and he got some twigs, and he got some hay, and he made a small little pile, and he brought out a block of wood, and he started with a small bow to create the fire for the evening meal. And all the villagers thought that this was great. Hey, the outsider's going to try and make a fire. And he tried, and he worked really, really, really hard. And he was doing it with a lot of strain and a lot of effort, and sweat was pouring off of him, and he didn't think he was going to get there. It was a very hard manual task that was being done. But after a while, he would see a little bit of smoke. He was creating enough friction. He got a bit of a spark, and he threw some hay on it, and it created a little bit of a fire. And after probably about 3 times as long as it would take any other member of the tribe, he got the fire going. They cooked their evening meal, and they laughed, and they all enjoyed the fact that the outsider had done exactly what they had done. He had learned how it was done, that they made fire. The next day, he wanted to do it again. And he went out and he brought out the sticks and the twigs and all that kind of stuff. And he brought out the bow and he brought out the block of wood. And all the villagers came around and they wanted to watch and see if he could do it maybe a little bit quicker than the last time. Because obviously practice makes perfect. Well, the missionary got it all together, and then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a lighter. Click, click. Out came a little bit of flame onto the lighter. And he reached down and he put it toward the hay and the sticks, and the fire was started in minutes. Now think about that. The village saw this, and they were they marveled at this little tool that this missionary had that could start a fire, that could take all that labor and all that work out of their day. And they embraced him for it, and he was able to introduce to them a new piece of technology, a new way of doing things that would change things for that tribe. And they looked at him differently, and they knew that he had some answers, but he also understood who they were and what they did and how they did things and why they did the things that they did. And he was welcome, and he was able to teach them a lot of things about sanitation, about irrigation, and it was a very, very meaningful relationship that was built. Now, in a neighboring village, another missionary walked into the village, and he saw that they, would make a fire each night, and he would see that one of the members of the tribe would get together some sticks and some hay and a block of wood and a bow and everything like that, and that person would lean over there and he would start to make a fire. Well, the missionary thought, well, you really don't need to do that, and he walked up on his first night there, kind of put the member of the tribe, pushed him out of the way, reached into his pocket, pulled out a lighter, click, click, there was fire, and the village ate him. Now, the moral of the story here is, don't be a wise ass. Nobody likes somebody coming in who's brand new, who thinks they know everything, and start showing. You may know everything. You may have all the solutions that are necessary. Quite frankly, it doesn't matter. You go in there like, I know it. I am here to save you. You now have an entire company full of enemies who think, what do you know? You have not paid your dues. And honestly, a lot of you may think, hey, this company's backwards. I have the answer. I can save their life. I can go in there because I'm better than they are. Well, that's great. You might be better than they are, but that is not going to win any friends. And if you have no friends in your new job, you have lost all political capital. You have no way that you're going to make a difference in the company. Unless the CEO thinks you are God, and he knows exactly, and he will defend you for being an ass, that's fine. It's going to be a different issue. But you start a job, you learn the way that they do things. You learn how they do it so you can say with a new, fresh set of eyes, I think I can improve upon this. Even if you know the answer from the beginning, learn it. Think about it. We'll be back.
Take this job and shut it.